Hello, everybody, and welcome to another year, another season of Moonlighting Montana. Back again. People asked if I was going to do it again. I wasn't entirely sure, which made me not want to do it because I feel like if I don't commit to something completely, then it ends up being not so great. But I got a lot of support from people that I didn't even know watched. And again, I don't really do it for that. I do it because I am no longer coaching sports and I like to have a reason to watch high school sports. And it's kind of an outlet for me. So as I heard people supporting and saying they loved it and wanted to watch more, even if it's a small number of people, that meant a lot to me. And so I continued to do it. And I'm going to do it again. Super excited to be back with you guys, bringing you guys just a concise place. If you've never seen this before, you've never watched it before, a concise place where you can see all the scores, stay up to date in a very basic way, right? I don't need to deep dive on Class AA. Sometimes I do deep dives into certain aspects, and especially when we get later on in the postseason, I like to look at maybe certain players for certain teams. But at the start of the year, this is just a basic place for me to go over scores and kind of give you my opinions on it. Again, it's going to be a place where I will interview coaches or interview people that have some stake in it. And sometimes I'll just interview people that I think would be fun to talk about sports with. Fellow enthusiasts of the sport itself and who like to talk about this on their downtime like I do. And so, here I go. I'm going to start football. Starting off, I have an intro kind of in the works that I'm making, and so we'll go back to an intro style, but it does take a lot of work and a lot of editing, and that's not something that I'm super well versed at. So again, just bear with me. Believe it or not, even after a year, I feel like I'm still under the blanket of a newer learner at this, and I'm trying to do my very best. But without any further ado, let's go over a few of these scores. All right. Right off the bat, I think it's super interesting to see that the state champs from last year, Belt Huskies, fell to Fairview, and that's not really much of a surprise to me. I think that Belt was very senior strong, as I had kind of talked about last year, and the same with basketball, and that's why they were so successful in those sports. They had a lot of seniors. I think Fairview is always a very solid school and a very solid team, and so I don't know if I would think of anything too crazy early on in the season to take that loss by 1 point. I still think that Belt's going to be good because success breeds success. And they had a culture that was built upon and is continued to build. So there we go. Hot Springs beats West Yellowstone 38-26. Mondack from North Dakota beats Fromberg 51-13. Shields Valley comes out on top 58-44 against North Star. Anyone who's new to Montana football, these scores seem relatively high like basketball because a lot of these games are either 6 or 8 man, which if you've never watched 6 or 8 man, please do me a favor, and maybe we'll do it on this YouTube video at one point during the year. We'll watch a 6-man game, but just show you how much different it is than watching 11-man football. Miles City lost to Lockwood Lions, which is kind of a surprise. Again, Lockwood's one of those teams you're going to have to keep your eye out for because they are so new. They live in an area of the state that kind of has kids that move around a lot, and so I would not be surprised to hear that Lockwood had some new kids. I think Miles City is always pretty solid. I don't know how good they are at this point, but Lockwood is one of those teams you're going to watch out for in both basketball and football. They have a lot of support from a financial aspect, and it's a very nice school, and I think that they have a very good chance being in that area to be super successful, which is exciting. Bainville, the Bulldogs, beat Terry Terriers 68-26. Lone Peak whoops up on Manhattan Christian 42-6, but Manhattan Christian will probably get that game back come basketball season, as we all know. Webo beats Ekalaka 38-6. The Victor Pirates, near and dear to my heart, lost to the Arlee Warriors 68-12. Arlee's always it's an interesting one because it's a bigger school, but they play in 8-man football. I thought Victor is they're relatively young, right? Starting a freshman at quarterback sometimes. I guess not starting a sophomore at quarterback, but then playing a freshman. They're just young, right? They lost a lot, especially within the last 2 years. And so, again, it's all a learning curve, and I'm always going to be rooting for those Pirates. So anytime I can see a positive, like I saw a couple of those drives, you're going to hear me praise the Victor Pirates, and I'm going to be tuning into their games, and I'm going to tell you what I think. I think that they have a lot of raw talent. Game to game, you're going to see a lot of improvement. Centerville wins 72-39 against Custer. Red Lodge beats Whitehall 46-7. Roundup shut out by Fairfield 54-0. Fairfield, another just strong sports school. Ronan beats Butte Central 29-15. Malta beats Baker 36-8. Freud Medicine Lake just destroys Jordan 63-0. It was a good idea to keep your eye on Freud Medicine Lake. Don't care how bad Jordan is or if they are. Didn't get a chance to see it. But scoring 63 and then shutting the other team out is indication for something, right? There has to be something special there. Harleton, Rygate 51, Chester 28. Stanford 58, Bridger 51 in an overtime thriller. Loyola, the Rams, the Cinderella underdog story of last year, coming out on top against the Three Forks Wolves 21-14. It is yet to be seen how the Loyola Sacred Heart Rams are going to be this year, and I don't think I should even speak on it because last year I just had all these issues with them. I thought they weren't as good as they should be. I thought that they were underperforming, and I guess I was right in a sense, but I didn't foresee what was actually going to end up happening there. Cutbank comes out on top 29-0. Tri-City 63, Reed Point 59. St. Ignatius, the Bulldogs, coming out on top 34-6 against the Plains Horsemen. Plains has been really rough for a few years. Didn't get a chance to see that game, but St. Ignatius, super solid last year. Had a very good chance, even though they just ran into a buzzsaw that is Belt, and they had a lot of seniors. So I don't know exactly what St. Ignatius is looking like. Again, success breeds success, however. Libby wins 21-6 against Stevensville, which Stevensville, hopefully the building project is getting coming to a close there. Don't know. Libby's pretty like run of the middle of the pack typically. So Manhattan beats Huntley Project 36-14. I'd keep my eye on Manhattan Tigers. Very solid football team, very solid athletes there, and same with Huntley Project. But obviously Huntley was really good last year, and Manhattan was good, but that's kind of a rout against Huntley Project there. Big Fork showing that they were the team to beat last year up until they kind of choked it away in the quarterfinals. I believe is the quarterfinals of last season. But they decided to jump up a class. Actually, they are in Class A now, and as you guys know, when I covered the western side of Montana A football, we had a lot of solid teams, Polson being one of them, mostly because of the quarterback that played there. Big Fork had to make that jump this year, which kind of pushed where I'm at, East Helena, to the east, and obviously that was the right move because Big Fork just came out and routed the Polson Pirates by 35. This one's a big one, y'all. This one kind of wakes the state up, and I honestly... this would be something that I don't think is too shocking, and I haven't seen Jake's picks for this one to really know if I have to look at it and see if he picked Gallatin, but I wouldn't be surprised if he had put money on Gallatin to beat this Capital Bruins team, mostly because Gallatin returns a lot of their guys, and Capital does not, and Gallatin's obviously super successful from last year, and Capital losing some of the guys they did is just a heartbreaker. And so I think that now we are going to move the Titletown indication from Helena to more eastern location like Bozeman and Gallatin, and you'll see why in a second. Glacier routs Great Falls 44-0. Billings Senior 44, Hellgate 15. Joliet wins 50-6 against Wolf Point. Ennis, my Mustangs, come out and rout Sealy Swan 48-14. I know there was some bad blood there. Not going to tell you who told me that, but I guess at the end of the day, the bad blood is just what it is. There really is no rivalry when you just come out and take it to the freaking business, right? So the Mustangs whoop up on Sealy Swan. I guess Sealy Swan will have to put their bets down come track season. As a reference for someone out there. Sims 62, Cascade 28, Savage 48, Plevna 0, Ronan 29. That was already said. Florence proves a point, man. These Florence Falcons, as soon as you think they're down, they just come out and beat a really solid Boulder team. Boulder was super. Well, I mean, they're not young, but they had a lot of returning guys. And I think that anyone in Boulder would take a look at this score and go, holy crap, Florence just continues this onslaught of success, which is amazing, especially from my boy Quinny Chamberlain coaching up there. Again, they just must be doing a wonderful job. They can lose Division I guys and still be top of the state in their division. Shoto 34, Sheridan 0, Hamilton 21, Whitefish 7. Those are going to be two really good teams in the West. Keep your eye out for them. Columbia Falls 42, Frenchtown 12. That's kind of a shocker to me. I don't know who Columbia Falls returns, but they were really solid last year. I can't believe they're that much better than Frenchtown, because Frenchtown always seems to have those farm boy strong guys, right? And that's a very uneducated way of putting it, but anybody who's played the game understands what I'm talking about. Columbus 61, Anaconda 0. Sentinel coming out and beating Skyview 50-12. I don't think Skyview is very solid, but that's good for Sentinel. They were pretty good last year, but I think that anyone who's from Sentinel or anyone a part of that team would say it's a disappointment in their eyes, because they've been so good for so many years. And then they really weren't in the talks of best team in the state last year ever. Then this one, here we go. Bozeman 28, Helena High 14. I think that, again, Helena High went on a complete and utter tear last year through the state. And I think they started off a little like this, so we'll see where they go from here. But Bozeman and Gallatin are super strong schools. They're both very talented. They're both very good at all sports. And so, who knows? East might be beast, honestly. Havre 43, Hardin 12, Malta 36, Baker 6, Thompson Falls 20, Conrad 14, Culbertson, really good football team from last year, 18, Chinook 8, Red Lodge, already read that one, Laurel 35, Sydney 0, Big Sky beats up on the Panthers 31-7. You guys know my feeling about the Belgrade Panthers. I need to watch some of their games, but it's toxic for me to look into their scores, and it hurts me as a former alum. Poplar 64, Harlem 36, even though Big Sky's pretty good, I'll say. Fergus 44, East Helena 7. Now, these are the returning state champs, Fergus, and when you see how big this team is, it is no underestimate to say that they got to be close to one of the biggest teams in the state. They're solid. They obviously know how to win, and I think that East Helena showed that they are not the same team that people treated as a punching bag last year. They're still learning. The wave of the culture is coming through, and you saw a lot of things this year that you just didn't see last year. Obviously, the growth is still important and it's pertinent, but as you guys continue to watch their games, as I continue to watch their games, you're going to see things more than, oh, they had that one good defensive stop or a great kickoff return or whatever. Now it's like, okay, they put together great drives for an entire quarter, or that when they scored that touchdown, it looked solid. Obviously, a couple of miscues that just killed drives. But again, opening up with Fergus is no easy task, and I commend them for doing it. Even, that's something that's difficult, but you're gonna have to play them anyway. And so, opening up with them is just going to make them be a little bit at ease as they continue on playing in the East. And a lot of teams they are going to have a lot more shots at this year because they're better. They're better. There's the coaching staff at East Helena. If I could only relay anything to you, I'm not even going to go into name names here, but it has to be one of the top coaching staffs in the state of Montana. I'm sorry, it just has to be. And if you have a list of coaches that are better or better qualified, then send it to me because I would love to compare that. But you just got to see this list of coaching staffs. Anyways, East Helena 7, Fergus 44. Corvallis 45, Browning 0. I think Corvallis is going to be really solid when you have now this isn't always this doesn't always cross over, but Corvallis is just super athletic. Won track state last year. They've always had really athletic guys. You're going to see about 6 Jessups running around really fast and jumping high on their teams. And I think that in football, that really translates well when you have really good track teams. Now, Browning, I don't know if that's a great indicator when you beat them really bad. They just don't particularly always care about football, at least from when I played in high school. That's what I remember. So it could be different. But CMR 33, Flathead 0. Billings Central barely beats Dawson, which is a shocker to me because Billings Central is returning a lot of guys, and they played in the state championship last year. They were one of the favorites until Fergus kind of woke up the state and beat them twice, but they barely squeaked past Dawson. So maybe Dawson's kind of a hidden gem in the East, and people kind of overlooked them. It is, again, first games, you never know. Butte 21, Billings West 17, Park City 14, Fort Benton 50, Darby 50, Troy 38, Power 46, Broadview Levita 6, White Sulphur Springs 18, Absaroka 55, and Bonners Ferry 0, Lincoln County or Eureka 45. Bonners Ferry's in Idaho. Now, not too much to talk about on all this. What I would say is that it isn't going to be the same dynamic as last year always. There are obviously teams, like I said before, breed success. They continue to be successful, but you're not going to have the same teams that dominated in the same fashion that they did last year, which I think is super interesting, and I like it a lot. Especially with all this new teams moving up, new teams being added, teams going to a different division. All this stuff is going to matter in the long run, and teams are just starting to play the game a little differently. Is it enough for me to sit here and tell you that everything is going to be different because we saw such and such succeed on week 1? No, because again, last year when I started this, I honestly want to say I started this after the first week, but if I didn't, it was very hard to have an indicator other than, your belt Huskies. The ones that dominated all year were the ones that really started off pretty strong. And you got those second and third placers that were kind of surprises. I guess other than Florence, because Florence you didn't know how strong they were going to be, and then in the end they just outperformed everyone. But this year it's going to be a little bit of a change, and I'm not going to be the one to sit here and make indicators on the first week because that would be unfair. Teams are starting and have all these things that they're trying and just kind of getting out there, getting their feet wet. So I'll be back here again 1 week from now, and we can talk again on the scores then. Promise then I'll have an intro for you guys that's a little bit more dynamic than how I started this one and the ones before. But I'm super excited to be back with you guys. I'm super excited to get some well-versed coaches and guests on here to talk about this stuff and just have a conversation. I've held a lot of this stuff pretty formally and kind of taking myself a little bit too seriously, I think, at times. And so next time I have someone on, it's just going to be a general conversation. We're not going to have interview questions as much, right? I might ask a few interview questions, but I kind of want to just have a conversation with well, what do you think of this, or what do you think of that, or what do you think of these teams? And maybe that's something I sent to them before, but we're going to experiment with it because, again, I don't think there's any wrong move at this point. I'm doing it for fun. I'm doing it, hopefully, you guys get to see this thing and follow along with the scores. But with that being said, I'll sign off. Thank you for watching Moonlighting, Montana.